So welcome to the webinar. The first question goes to Anand. Anand, how do you differentiate chronic telogen effluvium from androgenetic alopecia? This is my question to you. You're able to hear
Yeah.
me?
Yes, sir. I am able to hear you, sir. See,
Yeah.
the androgenetic alopecia, you can see the pattern alopecia. Suppose if in the males, you can see the pattern alopecia like the classification, normal classification, like gray from grade 2 is normal only. From grade 3 onwards is significant one. Significant one we consider for the treatment. So from grade 3 onwards to grade 7 is like a typical pattern alopecia. But few patients, apart from the classification described by the novel, but few patients, they have the diffuse type of androgenic alopecia. This is called DUPA, diffuse unpatterned androgenic alopecia. So these kind of people, they have the thinning of hair from the frontal layer to the almost, or sometimes in occipital area also, they have the diffuse thinning. And in case of telogen effluvium, here there is a more hair shedding will be there. If you comb the hair or take the bath, head bath, then the patient will notice more kind of hair fall will be there. But in androgenetic alopecia, hair thinning will be there, but not in the telogen effluvium, not in the chronic telogen effluvium. There the hair shedding will be more. So in difficult times to differentiate between these two things, then trichoscopy definitely will help. If you do the trichoscopy in the androgenic alopecia, there is a more than 20% of difference in the variation of the thickness of the hair. If you notice on the trichoscopy, then that goes in favor of androgenic alopecia. And also ratio, anagen and telogen ratio. And telogen ratio will be more in the case of telogen effluvium. And androgenic alopecia, villous hair will be more. The androgenic alopecia, villous hair, if you do the trichogram, the telogen hair will be more in the case of telogen effluvium. And in the androgenic alopecia, if you do the trichoscopy and there is the anagen villous ratio, terminal hair villous ratio, if you take it, usually it is around 8:1, but here it is 4:1. So there is a more villous hair you will notice in the case of androgenic alopecia. And if there is a classical pattern, if it is there, is very easy to diagnose. But in the case of females, is difficult. Most of the times, the females sometimes they have the both the telogen effluvium along with the female pattern hair loss. Then in such cases, definitely trichoscopy will help. Apart from that, hair pull test also sometimes in the borders of androgenic, it will differentiate. So trichoscopy, trichogram, hair pull test, and the examination pattern of thinning is also important to differentiate.
Okay. What Dr. Anand has told is most of the cases we can diagnose clinically because that now hair loss. That is one important thing. And trichogram, dermoscopy, and hair pull test will help us. And he was telling about variations in diameter of the hair. If it is more than 20%, it goes. Yeah. And if you see the terminal vellus hair ratio is less than 4, normally it is 8:1 or 7:1. But if the ratio is less than 1, then we should think of AGA. And the pull test also, hair pull test also, because it's most of the time it is temporal for AGA as well as for TE. TE means it's diffuse. It is diffuse. And then there are the dermoscopy findings also: brown prepolar sign, white prepolar sign, yellow dots, honeycomb pigmentation, and very more than 20% diameter. That is also important. And terminal to vellus hair ratio is also important. Biopsy is not necessary most of the times, except in case of doubts where you have diffuse alopecia areata versus AGA or diffuse alopecia areata versus telogen effluvium, something like that. You can see the variations in diameter. In case of chronic telogen effluvium, it will be less than 20% difference in hair diameter. In case of androgenic alopecia, it is more than 20% difference in variations in diameter. That you can see very clearly here. Similarly, if you do a trichogram, there will be at least, most of them will be telogen hair. Here you can see the decrease in anagen and telogen ratio. And if you see the vellus hair, and then of course biopsy, we know that there is a vellus hair, that is a different thing. But TB ratio, that is the terminal and vellus hair ratio, will be less than 4. In case of female pattern hair loss, it is less than 2.2. And sometimes you can see other signs like views lines and these things, so that indicates chronic telogen effluvium. The hair loss in the occipital region, usually we don't see in female pattern hair loss, but you can see it in diffuse chronic telogen effluvium or diffuse alopecia areata. So these are the things. Next question goes to Dr. Kumaresan. Which is the best topical medication that works for AGA? AGA means androgenic alopecia here. Dr. Kumaresan.
Sir, for androgenetic alopecia, as of now, we have minoxidil that's approved, and that's the one that's works very well for androgenetic alopecia. Sir. Other topical medications, we have a range of options, but we don't have good evidence to strongly back their use in androgenetic alopecia. I would recommend to go for topical minoxidil as a first-line management, sir.
Okay. Yeah, that's good because any topical medication should have the ability to suppress the DHT. It should have the ability to prevent the perifollicular fibrosis, and then it should prolong the anagen phase of the hair follicles, increase the expression of vascular endothelial growth factor, thereby increasing vascularity, and then blocks chronic inflammation and provides antioxidant effects. So these are the criteria actually to be an ideal topical medication for hair loss. To a certain extent fulfills this criteria, and that's why minoxidil is the only one which is approved by FDA also.
Yes.
Next question goes to Dr. Abhay. In the management of androgenetic alopecia, do you follow the same treatment protocol in both men and women, or do you have any separate line of treatment for the two genders, Dr. Abhay?
So what I would do is initially when you talk about management, first we confirm the diagnosis and the confusion which we just solved between the chronic telogenal effluvium versus the androgenetic alopecia. That is more concern in a female patient. Males, mostly the pattern is well established. So the treatment approach, once the diagnosis is androgenetic alopecia, with respect to the topical treatment, it's more or less the same because minoxidil is the only approved topical medication for both men and women, and the percentage varies to 2 and 5%, but in my personal practice usually I stick to 5% even for women because it gives a little early onset of results. So we start with 5% topical minoxidil in any vehicle, maybe 1 ml twice a day for men and maybe 1 ml at night for women to begin with, and then we observe them over a period of 3 to 4 months. When we talk about the oral medication, apart from the nutrition supplements which are added for most of our patients, finasteride is started for young men so as to prevent the progression of balding and to achieve early coverage of the scalp or maybe to increase the thickness of the hair. Women usually are maintained on topical minoxidil with nutritional supplements, and then some add-ons like shampoos, conditioners, depending upon the patient's profile and patient's willingness to use them are added. So that's more or less how we would start.
Okay. So he said there is a separate line of treatment for the two genders because for men, I think for male patients, we have to go for minoxidil as well as finasteride also we can go. Usually minoxidil alone for females, of course, there are other additives also, as he told. Maybe we can try finasterides in some of the cases. Rarely spironolactone also or finasteride can be prescribed for females, but they are not FDA approved. That is only minoxidil and finasteride are FDA approved. And the other things. Next question goes to Dr. Malai Mehta. Do you consider factors such as age, occupation, or lifestyle, etc., while choosing a treatment option for alopecia?
Yes. So I think we have to consider every possible aspect, especially when it comes to how well the patient is going to take the treatment. Like suppose I'm talking about 25-year male who is a little more conscious about the side effect of the finasteride and would be thinking twice or thrice before he starts the medicine. Sometimes the patient is pretty much occupied with the routine work and may not be able to apply the minoxidil twice a day. So in such scenario, male patient comes to me instead of 5% minoxidil 2 times a day, I would prefer 10% minoxidil once at night. So, and even if we talk about that there are female patients or the male patients above 45 may not respond to finasteride so well.
Okay.
So depending upon the lifestyle, depending upon the occupation, depending upon the expectation they are having when it comes to result. So I think the treatment modalities and the regimen would be different.
Yeah, rightly said. Anybody above 40 years, there is no point in giving finasteride. That is what they say. Response to minoxidil also not that satisfactory after 45 size. I mentioned only age, but he has mentioned about lifestyle modification. People who are having different lifestyle to change the medications accordingly, whichever suits him the best. Then coming to Dr. Anand, minoxidil is most widely used treatment option in alopecia. I mean, in hair loss, you can say. How effective is minoxidil? Do you see a plateau effect in efficacy? And what about the long-term safety with minoxidil? You're able to hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, sir, I'm able to hear you. Sir,
Yeah.
Yes, as all the panelists said, is minoxidil is a gold standard for in androgenic alopecia, even other alopecias also. So minoxidil is around 40 to 50% is effective. In spite of that, still we recommend to continue the minoxidil. And usually in the either males or females, the effect will be seen. It is like a proportional effect up to 1 to 2 years. After that, whatever the weight, whatever the gain is occurred with the minoxidil, that will be made. To maintain that, the patient has to continue even after the 2 years also. If you stop it, again, whatever the growth occurred due to minoxidil will be lost again. So
Long-term
my
safety.
recommendation, yes, it is very safe. Even my post-transplant also, I will recommend for the lifelong.
Okay.
Even for the and long-term safety is not an issue, sir. Topical minoxidil
It's not an issue at all. Long-term safety is not an issue at all.
Not an issue at all. 2 years plateau, but only thing is some like cardiac symptoms patients.
Yeah.
Then cardiac, in that patients a little bit careful. Otherwise, it's a safe, sir.
Okay. So only, as he said, only 40 to 50% of the people are satisfied with minoxidil. There's a plateau effect after 1 to 2 years. Long-term safety studies have not been done that much. But patients who use minoxidil, they usually use them for a few years, and then after that, they themselves get bored and stop them on their own. And the other thing is minoxidil, it works very well with those patients where the androgenic alopecia, the vertical alopecia is less than 10 centimeter diameter with hair density of more than 20 centimeter per square centimeter. That responds very well. That is what they have done in the studies. And the side effects, because most of the minoxidil preparations contain alcohol and propylene glycol and all those things, so they have sometimes the pre-existing scalp dermatosis may get aggravated, or allergic contact dermatitis may develop, or maybe irritation and dry skin may develop, pain also may be there. The systemic side effects are very, very low, only 1 to 4%. Most of them we don't see actually. Only thing is, as he said, those patients should be avoided. I mean, the hypertension and cardiac disease should be avoided of prolonged treatment. So there are 3 H's: hypertrichosis, headache, and hypotension. These 3 H's you should remember when giving the when thinking of minoxidil systemic side effects. And the problem is hair loss reversed its pre-treatment level by 6 months on stopping the therapy. So these are which everybody should keep in mind while prescribing minoxidil. Dr. Kumaresan, minoxidil, which strength you prefer, and what advice you give regarding application?
Sir, for men, I always start with 5% in a majority of men. And for women, I start with 2%. I rarely use 5% for women if they don't respond to 2% at least for 6 months to 1 year. And beyond 5%, I rarely give 10% minoxidil, only for few people who seem to be not responding to 5% standard dosage. And advice regarding application, I ask them to apply twice a day as much as possible. But if they find any difficulty in application in the morning time, going to work, then I ask them to use at least once a day, and should be applied and left overnight. If they are applying in the night time or in the morning time, they want to wash it off. At least 4 to 5 hours of contact is required in the scalp. So this is my recommendation.
At least 4 to 5 hours should be there. Yeah. Rightly said, males patients aged 18 to 40 years, 45 years respond well, better with 5% than 2%. Onset of response is early with 5% when compared to 2%. But females, it is better to use minoxidil, as he has rightly pointed out. And in females, the stronger preparations is more likely to irritate, and it may cause undesirable side effects like hair growth in the other areas of the body, especially on the face and chin area. And the technique application, already he told 12 hours intervals at a maximum of 1 ml at a time. It should be kept at least for 4 hours minimum. People tend to wash it off. They should not do it. That is the important message you have to take note of. We can note. Then this question goes to Dr. Abhay. Role of minoxidil in high concentrations above 5%. Do you usually use minoxidil above 5% strength?
Not really nowadays. So actually, probably in the years 2011 to 13, We have even tried 7.5 and 10%. But as we all know that compliance is an issue with a lot of our patients of AGA. So patients are wanting to come to you. They keep coming to you over years, but there are stopgap things. So they would use minoxidil for 6-8 months, then not use anything for next 3-4 months, and then start again. So even though it tend to give better results with 10%, 7.5, 12.5% is also available. Initially, patient has that very good results in the beginning, but as they discontinue using that, there's a significant amount of hair loss which they notice, and that puts them off. So after those experiences during those 3 years, we are not using more than 5% now. But then, as Dr. Kumarasan said, he hardly uses 5% for females, but we are routinely using 5% for females. Based on
If you're using 5% for females, you use 1 ml only or 1 ml twice daily?
So that's what. So depending upon the classification and depending upon the age of the females, we are sometimes even using 2 ml for females.
Can I ask Dr. Abhay?
Yes.
What are the common side effects you have seen with 5% minoxidil? You advise solution form. Which formulation do you prefer in women?
Mostly we are using solution.
And what about the adverse effects like hypertrichosis?
Yeah, so that's one common. I would not deny the side effect if they are not educated well, or even some patients who are applying it in the right quantity tend to get hypertrichosis of the side locks, particularly sometimes even on the forehead. So those patients obviously you would maybe want to step down or use 1 ml as a maintenance. Sometimes what we do is that for early alopecia, we are only asking them to apply minoxidil on the area where they are concerned more, rather than the entire scalp, though it is not the right scientific approach towards preventing the progression, but definitely it can help us to prevent certain side effects as well.
See, what's the percentage of women?
What this
Sir,
minoxidil 7. Yeah.
Sir, what is the percentage?
Yeah, please.
Women who develop hypertrichosis with 5%? Because we are worried about the hypertrichosis that prevents us from giving 5% to women. And in your practice, how frequently you see? What's the percentage of women who develop?
I would say maybe 20%.
Only 20. Okay.
20% is a good high percentage.
Yeah, it's a high number. I don't deny that.
Yeah, very high. But I also noticed for a few patients, maybe in my practice, maybe 1 or 2 patients came like that when they use person saying that probably they might read the literature, so that's why they get worried, and then they my mustache is growing, my hair or the chin is growing, something like that they will tell. Studies
more or less 5%
is much more effective. Yeah.
More or less 5% has higher satisfaction also amongst women as compared to 2%, because 2% the onset of action is also very slow, and a lot of them would discontinue treatment after 2-3 months, seeking that there was not good result.
Okay.
Yeah. Theoretically, 5% is definitely much more effective than 2%. And we thought maybe 10% also will be more effective than 5%. There are some anecdotal reports regarding that. But there are no controls, clinical trials or data to prove that higher concentrations above 5% are really superior. So that also we should keep in mind. We do try to give 10% also initially for a few months, and later on we shift down to 5%. That most of the people do in a few cases, but the data is not there.
But honestly, sir, if you ask me, the approach of step down has not been really satisfactory in my practice. So initially 10%, then you come to 5%. No, patient still has that rebound hair fall.
So it's better to stick on to 5%. That is what we mean.
Rather than jumping onto 10%.
Yeah. Coming to Dr. Malay Mehta, this question is to you. Will combination of minoxidil with other agents, suppose minoxidil is not working properly, or maybe he says when the patient comes to you, already sir, I have used minoxidil, why you are prescribing the same minoxidil? So these questions patients will ask. Then we will really get worried. Will the combination of minoxidil with other agents have an edge over minoxidil alone? If so, how? The examples I'll give you some of the examples. Minoxidil plus retinoic acid, minoxidil plus aminoxidil, minoxidil plus retinoic acid plus lageric acid, minoxidil plus steroid plus retinoic acid. So these are the combinations which are available in the market. So do you prescribe them, or do you think that they have an edge over minoxidil alone? Will you please explain?
So I'm not very big fan of the combination, especially when the patients are not willing to take finasteride. Recently, I've started using minoxidil and finasteride combination. or else some patients has already visited a previous dermat and he's using the minoxidil for quite good time and not happy with the result, then I may try to utilize along with minoxidil retinoic acid and steroid preparation, one available in the market. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say the brand name or not, but I prefer that one more particular molecule. If patient is conventionally used minoxidil 5% and not happy with it, and few of the patients of hair transplant wherein I encourage them to take oral phenoxidil, not ready to take it, then I give the top combination of that. Recent study with topical 0.1%,
No, we will confine to
0.25.
topicals only. We will confine to topical only. Among the topicals, so I said
Yes.
because these are have given you. So among these, which you think is better one?
I have not used top 3. I've used the last one, and I'm especially when the patients are resistant to conventional one, and partly happy with it.
Okay. The minoxidil combinations, how they work theoretically, I'll just try to explain. Tretinoin prolongs the anagen phase and increases the percutaneous absorption of minoxidil threefold. That's the one. Like acid, you know very well, is an inhibitor of high alpha reductase. And ketoconazole also, you know that it has been found to disrupt the testosterone metabolism in the skin. Minoxidil was usually used in shampoos, but of late it has been used because they say that the fibrosis around the head shaft and all those things will be broken, and then it will give the thickening of the head shaft, something like that. Steroids will be useful in controlling the inflammation, but I think we should be aware of the side effects of steroid also. So I don't advise the steroid combinations because steroids will definitely aggravate the existing. In the long term, they are harmful. So we don't want steroid. Maybe we can use it maybe 1 month or 2 months, but if you go on prolong using it continuously, I think there will be a lot of problems with painful scalps or erythematous scalps or sensitive scalps. We have seen patients developing sensitive scalps also with steroid combinations. So we think it's better to avoid steroid. That is what my suggestion is. Coming to minoxidil and tretinoin alone, what are the advantages? Dr. Anand?
Yeah,
This question is
tretinoin will increase the absorption of the minoxidil cell. At least three times more absorption of the minoxidil along with the tretinoin, because tretinoin is exfoliating agent. The scalp scales will remove and it will increase the absorption of the minoxidil.
okay. There have been some studies actually. The efficacy of 5% minoxidil versus combined 5% minoxidil and 0.01% tretinoin for male pattern hair loss. It was a randomized double-blind controlled study. And they have mentioned that the efficacy and safety of combined 5% minoxidil with 0.01% tretinoin once daily therapy appears to be equivalent to conventional 5% minoxidil twice daily therapy. So it is almost, instead of twice daily, we can apply even once daily, which is almost equivalent to the efficacy of 5% minoxidil twice daily. So it is a good study. I think we should go by the study and we can safely prescribe. Coming to the next question, Dr. Kumaresan, regarding minoxidil formulations. What is your experience with alcohol-free formulations? What is the problem with alcohol-based formulations? What are the disadvantages, advantages of alcohol-free and alcohol-based formulations? Will you please explain, Dr. Kumaresan?
Technically, some patient complaints of excessive irritation and dryness of the scalp and matting of hair. They are not very comfortable with the alcoholic preparation. When they complain of these things, then we put them on alcohol-free preparations. And it's aqueous-based minoxidil, but I have a reservation about the efficacy of aqueous-based minoxidil. I always feel that the results are a little inferior when compared to alcohol-based minoxidil preparations. The advantage is it avoids the aqueous-based minoxidil, avoids the irritant and dryness effect of alcohol-based minoxidil.
Yeah, mainly the dryness, the irritation, or maybe the exacerbation of seborrheic dermatitis may be a little bit controlled with alcohol-free preparations. So that's why they say that alcohol-based preparations are more irritable and they cause dryness. Initially, most of the preparations were alcohol-based only, even including foam also. Now we are not getting foams these days. Mainly we are seeing alcohol-free preparations, which are supposed to be skin friendly. Next question goes to Dr. Abhay. Do you know any top product which is superior to minoxidil?
So if you ask me that without minoxidil, any other thing, not really. So I would add a point here about the combination. So there's been a lot of debate and discussions about, you know,
No,
whether
no, only single product.
no. So in my personal
No.
experience, I would contribute that we have had experience of all the combinations of minoxidil available, the tretinoin and azelic combination, aminoxidil combination, finasteride combination. I
Yeah.
personally believe that they have their own place in our armamentarium. So it's not that all patients would only get minoxidil because that's working. Largely, one is based on the patient age profile, patient's previous prescription, and patient's expectations. We'll have to use those formulations. I use a lot of formulations, and I feel that they add at least 10% extra to what only minoxidil does. But if you remove minoxidil, nothing works.
Yeah, actually, I was going through the literature. This question, I myself know the answer, but I was just going through the literature, and I found that one preparation called nanogem technology, where they have used nanogem technology. That's called as nanoxidil. It is a preparation of minoxidil only. Don't think that it is something with this thing, but they have used nanogem technology. I think the company should take this up and then come with nanogem technology where it is superior. That is what they say.
Okay.
I'm not sure about it, but this is I could gather some information from the literature.
So there are some companies who have added sphingolipids bases in minoxidil solution, which tends
I
to
see.
increase the solution, which tends to increase the absorption. But what works is minoxidil only.
Yeah, Dr. Malay Nahitam, this is for you. This question: can minoxidil cause hair loss?
So I'll definitely answer the first question. Minoxidil temporarily can give you the temporary telogen effluvium for the period of 2 to 8 weeks. And we have to counsel the patient upfrontly before they start minoxidil. And once they are adjusted to the molecule after 4 to 6 weeks, the side effect can be eliminated or reduced. I want to add on the last questions that people were discussing about have you heard about the minoxidil sulfate formulation, and any of you have tried or prescribed or procured it from some part of the world? One study that I was going through, one of the Brazilian company that is coming up with, wherein minoxidil, plain minoxidil, everyone knows it's a prodrug. With the sulfotransferase enzyme, it will be converted to minoxidil sulfate, and that's how it is going to act. So in certain individuals, it was not effective. So they have come up with this minoxidil sulfate formulation. So do you have any experience, or have you tried any of this thing?
I don't think we have any product like that in India.
Can I answer, Dr. Malay?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Minoxidil sulfate, I haven't tried it. I don't think it's available in India. I was just going through the literature.
Yeah.
Minoxidil sulfate,
Yeah.
to be dissolved in alcoholic solution, the concentration should be 25%. That's one practical difficulty which limits the clinical use widely. And at that high concentration, the irritant potential multiplies manyfold. This is a major drawback. So still, it's not been launched because of this one particular reason. We require a higher
To the question, minoxidil causes. To the question, to minoxidil causes hair loss. As Malay has pointed out, Dr. Malay has pointed out, he said that we should advise, counsel the patient regarding the hair loss initially. Otherwise, the patient will come back to us and say that, see, you have used minoxidil and see the hair loss. This is creating a big. They will create a big fuss about it. So better to counsel the patient that initially for 2 to 8 weeks you may get hair loss, but don't get off, right? After that you will be normal. So why the hair loss? Because the anagen phase is stimulated. When the anagen phase is stimulated, there is a release of exogenous hair which were resting. So that is the reason why you get hair loss. And then finasteride in males. How often you prescribe and what precautions you give to the patient, Dr. Anand?
Yeah, finasteride usually recommended for 1 mg. So the males usually above 18 years who develop a proper beard and mustache, for them only we will recommend the finasteride for the male pattern baldness. Okay, because if you give the finasteride without development of breast, without development of mustache and beard, because finasteride will inhibit the development of mustache and beard. And those usually the recommended dose is 1 mg. But off label, I started using even 1/4 dose also, like 0.25 mg, making the tablet 1/4 part for every day.
In males,
in males, yes, sir, in males.
Oh, good. Okay.
1/4 tablet and off tablet also. I'm using it. it is also, it's a good response with 1/4 tablet also. Patients also are very happy along with the minoxidil 1/4 tablet of finasteride. And the females who
This is
completed
to
the
reduce the side effects. This is to reduce the side effects, or
yes,
what?
just I want to that to reduce the side effect, and especially the
Do you have
phobia
any
little
clinical?
bit.
You should have done some clinical studies. Actually, that is a good idea. Yes,
I
we
was
have
not
that.
any.
We have that with dutasteride. Dutasteride, even it is given 1/4 dose, also it is working. That is what they have mentioned. So when you are trying finasteride 1/4 of the tablet or half of the tablet, I
Half
think you
tablet
should conduct
also is working.
and see.
Patients
Yeah.
are
Okay.
comparatively happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah, the females, those
Side
who
effects.
completed the.
Do you tell to the patient the side effects of finasteride?
Yes, I will tell
Patients will
them before
run away, and then they may not use them.
yes, some people, it is up to them whether to take or not, is up to them. But is my part is always better to tell the side effects, because once you land in the side effects, then it is a problematic for us to counsel it again. So it is beforehand if you tell them, and that is the reason I'm reducing the dose. Or if some people, if they are happy to continue 1 mg, they can continue. It's no problem. So before I'm prescribing, I will tell the side effects of the finasteride.
Yeah, that is an important thing. But so the people will run away and then go to another doctor. They do window shop.
Another doctor, yes.
Yeah, we have seen
But
many
sir,
patients.
can I speak?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
How you tell the side effect also decides or
In a mild way, in a mild manner.
yeah.
Don't make them afraid.
Yeah.
Don't make them afraid. You just tell them there is a possibility, but very little the possibility. But if you use it for 1 year, nothing is going to happen. Something like that you have to tell.
Yeah, it is.
The rapport, we have to maintain a good rapport with them and then tell them accordingly, but not to frighten them.
Right, yeah. That's what. So most of
Yeah.
them would accept because it's going to
Yeah.
give them hair.
So another thing is at least minimum 3 months you have to use it to get the good effects. That is what
Minimum 3 months. Along with
actually.
minoxidil, right?
Yeah, no clinical data exists for completely bald men. No clinical trials have been conducted in men over the age of 41 years. That is what I was told. It causes the side effects like spermia and all those things. It even reduces the experiment also with longer duration of treatment, and in women of the fetus, they say that going on. So that's why medical legal complications may be arising if you don't tell the patient properly. That is another problem we are facing. And anybody above 45 years of age, please see that it can mask the cancer of prostate. So only in 46% of the patients will be taken. Anybody under 89 years of age, we don't prescribe it. That is another thing what Dr. Anand has told. And then coming to what is your experience with oral 5-alpha reductase inhibitors in female patients? I mean to say finasteride or dutasteride in female patients, Dr. Kumaresan.
So female pattern hair loss is multifactorial. It's not androgen
Okay.
alone in the pathogenesis. So the response is not uniform.
Yeah.
And the dosage which we give for men doesn't suit women. Generally, it's recommended to give a higher dosage. We can try higher 5 milligram finasteride for women who don't respond to standard line of management. And the response is variable. Some respond well, some do not respond well.
You are right. But in a recent study, they said premenopausal and postmenopausal women had been treated for more than 3 months with 2.5 milligram, and they showed improvement. That is what they say. With hyperandrogenism, definitely may be prescribed with finasteride, but one should be cautious about its teratogenic effects. And as he has mentioned rightly, 1 milligram they have tried, 2.5 milligram, 5 milligram, like that they have tried, and it has become a. But somebody has showed efficacy and safety of 5 milligram per day in South Korean premenopausal women. So women who may have potentially be pregnant must not use finasteride because it causes a specific birth defect called hypospadiasis in male fetus, not in female fetus. So whoever is contemplating pregnancy, finasteride should be stopped with 6 months before. That is also an important thing we have to consider when you are going to women of childbearing potential. And how about dutasteride in AGA? Dr. Abhay, you have any experience with dutasteride?
I personally do not use a lot of dutasteride. I am more of using finasteride. The number of patients I prescribe finasteride to, particularly males, almost almost we try to introduce in all patients. Some of them, like 20%, don't take it. But personally, dutasteride in literature has mentioned to have higher chance of sexual side effects. So I personally do not use dutasteride.
So when compared to finasteride, it has a higher chance of dutasteride.
Yes,
I think
yes,
most of them
yes.
are saying that dutasteride has more of several side effects when compared to
I would
finasteride.
like to know the opinion of other doctors because we have not really practiced this in our practice as of now.
Sir,
So
can I
maybe
answer,
Dr.
sir?
Kumaresan. Yeah, please.
Yeah, please. Anybody can, yeah.
Recently, past 1 year, I have started prescribing dutasteride, and the
Okay.
results are a lot better than finasteride. The onset of action, the improvement is very much evident. And side effects, I would say it's similar to finasteride. Clinically, I haven't seen anybody complaining of major side effects with dutasteride. People are at least on 1 year on treatment. They are very happy. They don't complain of any major side effects.
What
Although
dose? What
theoretically,
dose?
0.5 milligram daily.
Okay.
And 5
Although,
milligram daily.
yes,
Yeah,
theoretically, it says
what both of you have mentioned is
Can I?
are right. It has a higher efficacy when compared to finasteride, dutasteride. The thing is, sexual side effects are more common, but not everybody will encounter the sexual problem because only 4 to 6%. Sometimes it may go up to 10%. There's a mention. But mesotherapy with dutasteride, I myself have tried in some of my patients, which has been found to be useful. Mesotherapy with dutasteride. Then dutasteride is 3 times, more potent than I think in inhibiting the 5-alpha reductase, 100 times more potent in inhibiting the type 2 enzyme compared to finasteride. It's not currently approved, FDA approved for pattern hair loss, but pointed out its ability to serve as a therapeutic agent. There is no doubt. Even dutasteride 2.5 milligram also has been given. And it has been compared, and then it has given good improvement. But people say that dutasteride 0.5 and 0.115 milligram also will be useful. That is what they say. So the available data suggests that there is a efficacy of dutasteride, and some of the doctors have tried it, and they found it to be quite useful. But it is not at FDA approved. Why it is not FDA approved? Because they have seen that more side effects, sexual side effects with dutasteride. That is the reason why it has not been approved by FDA. Then coming to how do you approach a PCOS patient, polycystic ovarian syndrome patient with female pattern hair loss? This is to Dr. Abhay or Malay, Dr. Naita. Hello.
Yes, I think
Dr. Naita.
so definitely, yes, majority of the patient of PCOS who come to us, either they have the one or the pleiophobitis effect, including the female pattern hair loss, the hirsutism hair on the unwanted area, probably acne on the lower part of the face, and the weight on a higher side, probably pre-obese or the obese. Definitely, first line of the treatment, I would say, try to encourage them to have less carbohydrate food and less sugary food, and try to encourage them to indulge in the activity, which also help in sensitizing the insulin. And at the same time, the treatment can be much better. How would we approach them? We generally go for the investigation, either DHEAS, Mullerian inhibiting hormone, FS-to-LH ratio, and definitely we like to go for the ultrasound. Based on the clinical finding and based on the severity of the lab report, we end up giving either aldactone along with topical minoxidil, or sometimes we even start with a plain topical minoxidil, 2%, 1 ml 2 times a day. An aldactone dose,
the first thing is what he says is you have to investigate the patient. That is very important. Why I guess about investigation of the patients, because there really we have to see whether prolactin is increased or any hyperandrogenism is there in that patient. So we have to go to testosterone level. But usually we give topical minoxidil. That is one. And then topical minoxidil sometimes in finasteride also in dose of 0.5 or 5 milligram per day. You can even go for spironolactone 100 milligram per day. So even though a level of evidence is so maybe you can use other PRPs and maybe peptides and all those things. maybe you can go for hair transplantations who are really in need. And if you,
Sir,
this is,
definitely official than this only alone
Yeah.
treatment, monotherapy. Combination of both minoxidil and oral finasteride definitely more superior than the either the monotherapy, like minoxidil alone or oral finasteride alone.
yeah, you are right. You are right. Studies have shown that combination is superior to finasteride or minoxidil alone. There is no doubt about it. Combination. When do you prefer topical finasteride combination therapy in androgenetic alopecia?
I don't generally.
Both topicals.
Yes, I don't generally prescribe topical. I advise oral finasteride.
Okay.
And those patients who insist on the side effects of finasteride, they want to go for a topical preparation.
Mhm.
Now the majority of the patients have knowledge about the topical finasteride.
Yeah.
So I advise them to go for a topical finasteride combination if they insist. Otherwise, I would put them on oral finasteride only.
Oral finasteride only. So what they say is the combination of topical minoxidil and finasteride, it has to be considered as a beneficial treatment strategy to maintain the hair density. After achieving initial, you cannot. So then you can try this one. Thereby obviating the use of oral finasteride indefinitely. So those cases definitely it will be useful. Next question to Dr. Abhay: role of peptides in hair loss management, and what are these peptides?
So these peptides are actually they are into the picture for last 3-4 years now, and they're of different types, and some are biomimetic peptides. So a lot of them are from herbal origin. The roles are honestly not very well defined in by the double-blind randomized controlled trials and all, but there have been some evidence-based reports of most of the peptides which are incorporated in either alone as a hair serum or in combination nowadays with minoxidil. As far as my experience with peptide goes, now there are a lot of patients who initially come, and what we have observed is that adding a peptide in the early treatment has probably helped us to achieve a little reduction in the hair fall earlier than directly giving minoxidil. So if suppose there may be a 2-week early halting of hair fall can probably happen with using peptides in combination, either as a serum separate in the morning and minoxidil in the night, or a minoxidil plus a peptide combination now. Some people who have already used minoxidil and are having little resistance to use minoxidil in the beginning can be added peptides to start with. And as we discussed before, that telogen effluvium can happen with patients who are suddenly started on minoxidil. So those patients probably can be prescribed for peptides for about 6 weeks, and then we start with minoxidil. Though the results of increased density are little late to happen, but patient sticks to the therapy because they see reduction of the hair fall. So that's how we are positioning peptides in our practice.
Okay. But peptides are nothing but proteins only. They are small proteins. The amino acids will be 2 to 50 only. Most of the proteins have more than 50 amino acids. Whereas peptides have very small, they are very small proteins. They definitely block the DHT and they improve the microcirculation and promote collagen and repair of the skin. So there are 3 types of peptides. One is a copper peptide, the other one is thymic peptides, and the other one is the biomimetic peptides, which most of the time they add the vitamins to eat or the plant products to eat to the peptides, and then biomimetic peptides. Peptides are being used for diffuse hair loss treatments, maybe a male or female pattern hair loss, or in chronic telogen effluvium, or in therapies. But as such, as he pointed out rightly, there are no controlled clinical trials to prove their efficacy. Only anecdotal reports are there. We use them because, as he said, initially people get bored about minoxidil, then we try these minoxidil plus peptide combinations we try. And even though there are some, they are claiming success rates, but we don't have clinical controlled clinical trials. That is the problem. Next question goes to Dr. Mehta. What is the role of procapil capaxyl anagain in the management of AGA? What are these? These are also peptides. I think you know about procapil and all those things. So what is the role of procapil capaxyl anagain in the management of androgenetic alopecia?
Honestly speaking, the randomized clinical trial and the large-scale studies are not available in the treatment of this. So I would rather use it in combination of minoxidil. I've never used it standalone. And yes, I think minoxidil is something which would help in preventing perifollicular fibrosis, so irreversible damage to the hair follicle. It can be prevented. So sometimes I prefer that minoxidil with minoxidil and not been a big fan of Procapil and again.
Yeah, recently many of the companies have come out with these product, Procapil, Capaxil, and Anagen. We'll see what is this Procapil. Procapil is nothing but a biomimetic peptide, that is biotinyl tripeptide, biotin plus tripeptide. And what is that? It's nothing but a citrus fruit extraction. And the oleanolic acid is from olive leaves. So this is one Procapil. Capaxil is a blend of, once again, the acetyl tetrapeptide with some clover flower extracts, water, butylene glycol, and dextran. And again is the based on the sprouts of organic green peas. So that is derived from. So this combination, Procapil, Capaxil, and again combination is working well. And there are some miscellaneous topical therapeutic plant products also, like the onion, like amla, like citrus lemon, all these things. Do you really recommend them? Niacinamide, caffeine, lactic acid, aloe vera, rosemary oil. There are so many things. Do you really recommend all these things?
In my opinion, as a solo or monotherapy, they have no role.
As a monotherapy, they have no role.
But yeah, like caffeine may.
Yeah, did you anytime try mesotherapy, because you're all experts in hair management? So do you anytime try mesotherapy with these products?
So
because
mesopeptides,
all the products from biotin to caffeine to lactic acid, everything.
Yes.
You try anytime?
So meso cocktails were available largely, and there is still a doubt that what does that cocktail contain, because they usually would say that the formulation is proprietary and we don't know the all ingredients. Now
No. They write the ingredients. No. For mesotherapy products which they give to doctors, so we cannot take them. They don't contain ingredients. We have to.
But no, you don't know what percent caffeine is there.
Yeah, of course. That percentage and all those things they don't mention, but they mention about the ingredients actually.
So mesotherapy is done in 2-3 ways. One was a direct injection, and second was with a derma roller. So still what we do nowadays is that to a lot of my patients, I prescribe using derma roller like twice a week at home, because it tends to increase the circulation and probably also increases penetration of minoxidil.
We will come to that also later. Yeah. So they found out that the pea sprouts were found to be strongly, they upregulated the FGF7 and Nagin genes, which are important for the triggers for the new hair growth. That is what they have mentioned. And peptides as such, Procapil, Anagen, and Capaxil and copper peptides, they increase the proteoglycans, and then the elastin, and they help in the Nagin pathway. That's how they prolong the anagen phase. So it has been well documented about the role of Procapil, Anagen, and Capaxil. So a product which contains these things we should look for and then see. And there was a comparative study between topical 5% minoxidil and topical iridencyl, Capaxil, and Procapil combination in androgenetic alopecia. In conclusion, they said that even though there are no previous studies related to this thing compared to topical application, they have mentioned that greater efficacy and satisfaction were reported in response to this RCP combination. That is iridencyl, Capaxil, and Procapil combinations. They have found out good satisfaction and good efficacy. So that is one of the studies they have mentioned here. And coming to when do you suggest PRP in men and women, Dr. Anand? Do you go for PRP therapies?
PRP therapy usually, initially I won't recommend, but I will tell them that initially I will prescribe minoxidil, and in the males finasteride, in the females only minoxidil, and if any PCOS is there or any hormonal issues, there is like spironolactone and other hormonal therapies. Still the patient is not responding, still the patient is not happy, then I will give the adjuvant therapies like PRP. PRP is like one adjuvant therapy, but still I will counsel
PRP is only adjuvant.
Adjuvant therapy only. Sir.
Yeah. It is never substituted or advocated as a chemotherapy. It is actually an adjuvant to minoxidil nutrition supplement. And they know that PRP doubles the volume of the hair with the treatment. The only disadvantage is sustainability. That is the major problem with PRP. The sustainability is the major problem. But if you combine with minoxidil and all those things, up to 3 months you have seen the sustainability, where we have even reported in some of the conferences also. And in one of the studies, they say that even derma roller was as good as PRP. There was one study like that. And the combination of peptides with minoxidil, because they have mentioned that, and I'm coming to the peptides also at the same time, they said that it increases the expression of NK1 receptors, and peptides are also known to increase the vascular endothelial growth factor and extracellular matrix along with minoxidil. That's why minoxidil and peptide combination is good for chronic telogen effluvium. That's what they have mentioned. Coming to another question, Dr. Kumareshan, this is for you. Is there any role of minoxidil and peptides in treating hair loss? Anyway, we have mentioned about that thing.
I think we have discussed this topic, sir.
Yeah, I think already is mentioned. So this is there. Can growth factors be tried in hair loss? Do you have any experience with growth factors? Growth factors like VGF and then FGF and all those things. Insulin growth factor, fibroblast growth factor, and then vascular endothelial growth factors. They are there. Did you try any time? This question goes to Dr. Kumareshan because I didn't ask that question to Kumareshan. Kumareshan?
No, sir. Growth factors as such as a preparation I haven't tried, but indirectly we use PRP for this only, sir.
Yeah, they say that topical application of growth factors followed by microneedling therapy has benefited. Growth factors are basic fibroblast growth factor, insulin-like growth factor, vascular endothelial growth factor, stem cell factor, keratinocyte growth factor, superoxide dismutase, all these things, noggins and all those things. They have done a study actually, effects of topical application of growth factors followed by microneedle therapy in women with female pattern hair loss. They said that there's definitely, the graph shows that there is definitely a higher response with these growth factors. But the thing is, either you take a PRP or you take a stem cell therapy or a peptide therapy or growth factor therapy, the cost benefit advantage is a question mark and sustainability of response is debatable. There is no doubt about that. Still debates are going on whether these things are effective or not, unless we do control studies, double-blind control studies, not simple control studies. Anecdotal reports, anybody will have. I have treated 10 patients, so I can report. But it is not that. Unless you have double-blind control studies, you won't be able to say that particular this thing is effective. So, any role of nutrients in the management of hair loss, Dr. Abhay?
I would largely say yes. So
Yes.
most of our patients
Okay.
are given nutrients. Now, which nutrient deficiency is going to lead to AGA, and those calculations are a little difficult and the literature is sparse. But what we have observed is that adding nutrients, multi-nutrient combinations in first 3 months of management has a little edge. Maybe patient having combination of chronic telogen plus AGA. The chronic telogen is also being benefited with the nutrients. So adding nutrients definitely helps in at least first 3 months of treatment, probably to achieve a good quality of hair. Obviously the hair density and all, I really doubt whether the nutrients can increase it or no. I would add a little more about, you were mentioning about the procedures like the PRP or any other formats of procedures which you're doing for the management of hair loss, and all of us know since many years that there is a significant lack of randomized or foolproof data which we look at as a doctor. But when we look at from the perspective of the patient, hair fall like androgenetic alopecia particularly, I'm not talking about the medical conditions like chronic telogen or alopecia areata. Androgenetic alopecia treatment is largely cosmetic in nature. So we are really not treating any disease. We are treating a procedure, or rather aging process of hair, which is happening unfortunately early for those patients. Now, whether to choose that treatment of PRP, or even we are doing something called as Regenera, which is a autologous micrograft treatment in the clinic, also depends upon a long-term consultation with the patients, that what do they expect and how much are they willing to go forward with respect to the results or the outcomes. So we have patients who are being done like across India. If I can take this liberty to speak, patients having grade 3, grade 2 balding also have done transplants for hairline, and patients who have done treatments like PRP Regenera for grade 5 and grade 6 balding also. So it largely depends upon two factors. One is what scientifically we feel is appropriate for patients, and also what the patient feels about their hair overall, like the grading as well as the existing hair.
Okay. Coming to the role of nutrients only, I'm just talking about role of nutrients.
Can I?
The picture you have seen, I'll just tell you after that. You can tell me that. I'll just tell you about the nutrients actually.
Can I add something about the nutrients? Sorry.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah. So I think if you go on internet and search about the nutrients for the hair, Amazon, you will find more than 2,260 results. 90% of them have the biotin in it. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are so fond of it. Either the multinational company or the big pharma company pushes us to write about it,
Biotin.
or we don't
Yeah.
know about
Yeah.
it. But if you see the properly the biotin deficient patients, they would also come up with hair loss. They will come up with the hair loss of the eyebrow area. They will have a seborrheic dermatitis issues, and they will have a neurological complications. And if you see, the biotin deficiency, they have done the study in telogen effluvium, and I think the female pattern alopecia, it is less, I think, less than 2% of the patients, or very rarely you will find it. You supply the biotin in such patients, and patient will respond to it. And they have also studied supplementing biotin in healthy individuals. Does it stop the hair fall? The outcome is definitely no. So even though whatever we write it down, it is not something
Not
that
known. Yeah.
definitely, sitting on the other side of the table, we should be also judicial while prescribing the stuff. Talking about the other nutrient excess, I was talking about it. Vitamin A, vitamin E, and selenium taken in excess quantity can lead to hair loss. So also we need to consider that.
Can lead to
And
hair
as
loss.
far,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
so zinc
Yeah.
and I think the folic acid and iron is something which we are really fond of, and then we can stick to certain amino acids. These are the safer options, and to how long we should be
Okay.
continuing, we also need to have data for that.
Yeah, I'll just tell you one point about the phytoestrols. That estrogen mechanism also plays an important role in restoring the hair. So there are certain products which are available which contain phytoestrol. And I was going through for those people who like to consume alcohol, they say that red wine is very good. It contains a lot of, and there is one Bourbonnais whiskey. So I was just wondering, what is this Bourbonnais whiskey? It is nothing but a car. It is extracted from the corn. So, and even beer also helps to certain extent. I was just really surprised. Apart from that, lentil, flaxseed oils, sesame seeds, flax seeds, and then the roots like ginseng, and then the licorice root. All these things are there. So many lentils and all those things are there. But I'm not sure whether the berries and cherries and all those things. But I'm not sure whether really these phytoestrols will help in making the hair grow. But we're concerned about the certain vitamins and iron and all those things. Biotin, vitamin D3, methylcobalamin, iron, amino acids like what he combination has told, calcium, omega-3 fatty acids. Most of the doctors will try to prescribe those medicines which contain all these ingredients. I think most of them do, especially telogen effluvium, chronic telogen effluvium, iron. Definitely, we do give vitamin D3 also. We do give biotin, but are they really effective? That is the question mark. Actually, they are supposed to be beneficial, but we don't know. The nutritional supplement can be prescribed along with it, providing some beneficial effects. But a balanced diet which contains all these things will be more than enough. That is what they say. And only one thing is whey protein diet should be careful about that, because it increases the testosterone levels and it can cause, it can get baldness. So whey protein diet you try to avoid. That's what they were mentioned. Any recent advances in the topical therapies for female pattern hair loss, not for male pattern, for female pattern hair loss, please, Dr. Malai Mehta?
I think as you told Oxygena trichogenica, I think this is something that I've recently heard about it. I think apart from that, I'm not sure about it. I would.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, you're able to hear? Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, you're able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hello. The time is out or what? Hello, are you able to hear me?
Sir, we are able to hear you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are able to hear you.
You can go
Yes,
ahead,
yes,
sir.
we are listening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there are two creams. One is topical melatonin they have tried, and another one is 17 alpha estradiol and estradiol valerate have been tried in some of the female pattern hair losses, which have been found to be they have some favorable consequences, but they are not yet come to the market. But these are on trials only. Next question goes to Dr. Anand. In treating chronic telogen effluvium, treat the cause first is more important than the topical medications. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir. Definitely, because the chronic any telogen effluvium first treat the cause, treat the primary cause. Whether it could be anemia, long-standing anemia, or vitamin D3 deficiency, B12 deficiency, is a thyroid problem. We have to rule out all the any medications, antihypertensive, anti-epileptics, or any medication if the patient has. We have to take proper history, also all the medications she's taking, and any recent sickness, illness, and stressful events, any stressful events, psychological events also we have to take it, all these things. And with proper counseling, with all these things, with proper counseling, after that only we will add the medications like minoxidil, usually in the telogen effluvium.
Yeah, you have rightly pointed out that is very important. Any chronic illness, any severe prolonged psychological stress, post-surgical or hypothyroidism, crash diets, medications, especially medications, you should be careful about these things. You exclude some catagen-inducing drugs like beta blockers, retinoids, anticoagulants, and antithyroid drugs. And inducing endocrine disorders like thyroid dysfunction, hyperandrogenism, and hyperprolactinemia. And then substitution therapy for catagen promoting deficiencies like those of iron, zinc, estrol proteins can be initiated. And adequate dietary intake of oral ferrous sulfate is also very important in these cases. So apart from, I mean, maybe you can prescribe minoxidil, you can prescribe peptide and all those things, but these are the important things one should be taken into account. Do hair oils play a role in hair growth recuperation?
Sir, I don't see any role for the oil in hair growth, although it's been marketed in the media in a big way.
A lot of advertisements are there containing this thing, that thing. So do you think that the hair oils will play a role?
I don't think even a single hair follicle will grow because of any oil, sir. I don't think so.
Yeah, you are right. Hair oil does not play a role in the treatment of this thing, but there are anecdotal reports saying that menthi, amla, sesame oil, coconut oil, onion extract, green pea extract, all these things are useful for. Don't know. This is the major problem we are facing when to answer the questions from the patients actually. But they have seen that massaging, application of oil and massage. But there is an article actually. I read that article. I should have quoted that article. I didn't quote that article. It helps in increasing the circulation. What happens while massaging and combing? It seems the erector pili and the stem cells attached near the erector pili, they get activated. That is the reason why Indians go on combing their hair. Probably that is the reason why their hair is growing. I don't know, but this is one of the article which I read, and the applying oil and massaging the hair definitely helps the circulation and always stem cells, it seems. So that is one of the things which I just wanted to point out. Coming to low laser light therapy, Dr. Abhay, are you using this low laser light therapy in your clinic?
Not like, I really don't call it low level laser light. We have tried some laser helmets, but I don't think they added any value.
Yeah, that is laser helmet is nothing but low laser light therapy only.
Yeah, but I am not like the helmets which we use are not the FDA approved helmets. So I personally have no experience of using it effectively. Maybe I would love to hear from other panelists.
Yes, surprisingly, low laser light therapy is FDA approved. That is what is surprising me. It has been approved by FDA actually.
So only one specific helmet was approved. So other like the diode caps and the combs are
the diodes that emit red light between 630 to 677 nanometers had been approved actually. So 2 to 3 times weekly they have tried, and then they say that it has been used to diffuse hair loss, androgenetic alopecia, and pattern balding. I don't know, but published trials of low level laser light have been criticized as not being independent. Anecdotal individual reports of using these devices appears disappointing. So that what mentioned is right. It may be a disappointing procedure.
Sir, can I add?
Next, yes, please.
Sir, low level laser therapy, that device is approved for safety, not for efficacy, sir. That FDA approval is.
You are right. Safety has been approved for safety. Yes.
Second point, sir. Surprisingly, low level laser therapy is placed above PRP in the guidelines for androgenetic alopecia, both British and American associations. The level of evidence is level 2, sir, but for PRP it's only level 3. And that's an interesting point. It's placed in the guidelines above the nutritional therapy, above PRP. It's very high, next to minoxidil finasteride hair transplant. And I've been using in my clinic. I use diode lasers. I find it effective. Not in a big way, but it's a useful maintenance therapy.
As an adjuvant, you can definitely. Yeah. And then comes to, I think this question goes to indications for scalp micropigmentation. Anybody has tried? Anybody can answer this question.
Sure. I do scalp micropigmentation frequently for the scars, strip surgery scars, and FE donor scars. And as a combination along with the hair transplant, particularly for vertex.
Did anybody try an eyebrows and eyelashes, something like that?
We do
I
microbleeding.
am talking about only scalp, but usually most of the times it is done on the eyebrows and all those things, no?
Yes, a microblading for eyebrows is a good option, sir. It's a variation of
Micropigmentation is done for even for vitiligo also.
yes, sir.
Yeah, as he mentioned about escumation, as mentioned, the concealing scars from hair transplantations, for covering burn scars, for skin conditions such as alopecia and male pattern baldness also it has been tried in some of the patients. Micropigmentation is often referred to as scalp tattoo. More than the scalp, eyebrows, eyelashes, eyelids, lips are common treatment areas. Rather than trying to make the hair grow back, this treatment creates an illusion of real hair through an intricate tattoo. So the one which is really you engage what you think to be a procedure of hot procedure or beauty fashion today may not by tomorrow it may not be well accepted. So that's why you should be very careful when you are giving a scalp pigmentation to young individual. So be careful about young individuals. That's what they have mentioned. Do you recommend oral minoxidil in the treatment of AGA? Oral minoxidil, Dr. Rabai?
No,
Did you ever try?
I don't give it.
Anybody has tried oral minoxidil in the treatment of AGA?
Can I answer, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir, I do prescribe oral minoxidil in youngsters who don't have any cardiac complications and who are allergic to topical minoxidil. I'll give a dosage of 2.5 to 5 milligram.
What is the dose you prescribe?
2.5 to 5 milligram in men and 1.25 in women. I've been prescribing this for past 1 year, and the results are good. It's really a good treatment to try, sir. Although it's
Yeah,
not
it is good thing to hear from you. Dr. Anand, did you try any time?
Yes, I tried oral minoxidil also, especially in diffuse alopecia patient, diffuse DIPA patient. I tried oral minoxidil. So 5 mg tablets available. And when I was in Bangkok, my boss he did study almost like 25 patients where the donor area thinning is there. For that patients, we tried oral minoxidil so that the donor area, the occipital area will become thick. So then we take up for the transplantation. Then after that, we are continuing with the low dose of oral minoxidil to maintain it.
For
Only
how
the
long-
dose I
for
was
how
just
long
little
did
bit
it-
concerned. Only the dose of minoxidil.
For how long?
Is it 0.65 milligram or is it a 2.5 milligram?
3 to 6.
Accumulation?
Sir, minoxidil I give 2.5 milligram for men, sir, per day.
Okay.
And if by 3 months, response should show up. If not, I hike up to 5 milligram per day in men.
How much the longest follow up?
1 year.
So they're continuing
Okay.
after 1 year.
Yes, compliance is
Have
very
you-
good for oral minoxidil compared to topical. The pill is easy to take.
Dr. Kumarasan, have you experienced that telogen effluvium post that starting the oral minoxidil? I have tried it in almost
Yes.
3 patients. 2 of them have shown the tremendous hair fall, and they were pretty much unhappy. And then finally we have to stop it.
Yes, telogen effluvium does say in an oral also, like topical. Just proper counseling is necessary for these patients.
Yeah, whenever you are giving minoxidil, pregnancy, heart failure, renal failure patients, and porphyria patient and pheochromocytoma patient, be careful about these things. Okay, effective contraception is needed in women of childbearing age, and usually it is very useful for post chemotherapy hair loss, female pattern hair loss, alopecia areata, fragile hair disorders, etc. But we should watch out for blood pressure, low blood pressure, increased heart rate, and fluid retention. So these things you should keep in mind, and I can give minoxidil, right? And then any new therapies for hair loss management, Dr. Rabai? Any new therapies you come across for hair loss management?
Amongst the procedure-based therapies, we've been doing Regeneron Activa, which I told you, which is a autologous micrographs over last 2.5 years. It's a selective therapy, so we can't really use it for all our patients because of the cost involved in the therapy. But if you have a right patient selection, then results are encouraging.
Yeah, I'm asking about oral therapies. Well, not oral, I mean system income therapies, not the procedure therapies.
Not really, apart from
I think probably you have heard of Prefacitinib, because I myself tried Prefacitinib on the alopecia areata patients, but it didn't work out that well. People say that it works, but for me it didn't work. There are some cytokine inhibitors, then topical DPCP also I am trying some of the patients, especially for alopecia areata patients. For androgenetic alopecia, you know that the one which has been tried for eyebrows and eyelashes, you can be given to the scalp also. That is what I mentioned. Other one is very important thing is cartaxolone 17-alpha-propionate. This is also a good one for androgenetic alopecia. Similarly, topical JAK inhibitors are also coming into vogue. Probably in near future we have. Of course, we do have topical finasteride. So these are the near therapies. And then transplantation. I mean, a few more questions are there. When do you consider a patient requires hair transplantation, Dr. This goes to Dr. Malay Mehta.
Patient who is established baldness above grade 4, I would say any patient who is about 25 years of the age group, decent amount of the donor area is also needed in order to do the transplantation, because many of the patient like Dr. Anand has already said, Dupa, diffuse, unpatterned hair fall, hair loss is there, and even though they want it, we can't even go ahead and do it. Even the thorough trichoscopy is also needed before we go for the transplant, because we have seen, pseudopellodobrok or lichen planus, even few of the patients along with AGA, they may have the scarring alopecia. So we have to actually stop the disease progression before we jump onto the surgical treatment. So decent donor area, age about 25, and established baldness. This is something that I would look for before we go for the hair transplantation.
Anand, do you want to add something extra? Usually it can be done in above
Yes.
25 years, sir, or below 25 years it can be done.
Yeah, it depends, sir. It depends, sir. Because severe baldness is there in 25 years also, we will take up. Because before that is a psychological condition of the patient. It's very, very important. It's psychosocial.
Okay, which is the ideal patient? Grade 3 Norwood classification patient, or anybody?
3.
Ideal patient.
Grade and above grade 3.
3 and
above grade
3 to 6 and 7.
Okay. And coming to FUT versus FUT versus FUE. Yeah, Dr. Anand, FUT versus FUE, which one you prefer?
Right now, actually, both are the good methods. FUT, see, those who does FUT is a nice way. They like FUT, and those who does FUE only without FUT, they advertise, they propagate FUE only. Actually, to be speaking, you require both the things, FUT and FUE, because nowadays
Can you also combine them? Can you also combine them?
Yes, we can combine them. That is the reason, to cover the large recipient area. Initially, we do FUT and followed by an FUE. Also, we can do it. So ideally speaking, both the techniques are very good and both the techniques are recommended. So this one is not inferior, that is not superior. Both are required right nowadays.
But do you agree that with FUT more number of grafts can be taken with FUT when compared to FUE?
The problem is because right now, before coming to the transplantation, the patient will first he will read in the internet regarding the hair transplant, regarding the FUT, regarding the FUE, and after reading of the FUT in the internet and the results they are posted in the internet, then he will lose the hope on FUT. Then he will read about the FUE and lot of favoritism on FUE. So then, even in spite of counseling about the FUT, also the patients won't turn up. That is the problem, sir, right now. But in good hands, we do the FUT. It's a very good results. You will get it.
Sir, I would like to, Dr. Anand, I would like to ask one question.
Please. Because all of you are hair transplant surgeons, so you should know.
Yes. So, many of the patients who come here for the revision surgery, specifically was done the previously FUT, the crown area exponentially increases because of the stretch happens. So what about the increased requirement of the recipient area?
No. First, Malay.
When we think
after FUT's crown area won't increase just because of the FUT. It is an ongoing process of the androgenetic alopecia. It's already because it's not stable. As the age advances, the alopecia in the vertex also we keep on going on. Initially, imagine if it's a 5 centimeter area is there, you did transplant. The disease alopecia is not stable. Strong family stuff going up 6 or 7 is there. Obviously, they will prolong. And in the crown area above 40, above 35 only I will recommend. Before 35, I won't recommend. In spite of there is a good donor area is also there, because we don't know the family history and how stable it is. Crown area also we don't know. That is the problem. Then you will get a donut appearance or Voda appearance. In Indian,
but FUE has the advantage of not producing scar circuloids. That is one has to agree to that. FUE has the advantage of not producing scar circuloids. But FUT more number of grafts can be taken when compared to FUE at a particular time. But as per the dermatologist, both the techniques have are beneficial. There is no doubt about
Yes, both the techniques have the advantages and both techniques have the disadvantages also.
disadvantages. So it all depends on the choice of the individual. I mean,
Choice of the
maybe
individual. And
of course the patient choice as well as the doctor choice also.
Surgeon also. He should train in
Surgeon
both.
also. Yeah.
Yes.
Coming to what is the medical treatment to be prescribed before and after transplantation? Do you go on prescribing minoxidil for how many months? Because there was one hair transplant surgeon who said that I am not going to prescribe minoxidil at all. I don't know why people prescribe minoxidil after surgeries. There is not required. Is it true? Or we prescribe it only for a few months, or you prescribe it for lifelong? What is the this thing after transplantation regarding the medical treatment? Yeah, Dr. Kumaresh.
I will.
Sir, medical treatment is essential post-surgery also, sir, because the androgenic
For
alopecia.
how many months or for how many years or is it lifelong?
We don't have any answer for the protocol. How many years? How many months, or sir? It's a continuous progressing hair loss, and its medical management is required indefinitely, sir.
Yeah. It would largely also
Okay.
depend upon what stage of alopecia you're treating with surgery. So someone having grade 3, grade 4 already have a lot of hair pre-existing on the scalp, and it's our prime job to prevent them from falling as well. So otherwise, after 5-7 years, they are going to lose those hair and come for a repeat transplant. So they have to continue using minoxidil. Maybe grade 6, maybe probably 7 really does not benefit from minoxidil also. So they are just happy doing the surgery.
Okay. How about keratin fiber sprays, Dr. Abhay? Do you prescribe keratin fiber sprays? I think many
some patients, a lot of our patients are already using those topic sprays, but there's a maintenance of those sprays, like using them in daily routine, is a challenge for a lot of people because it inhibits. Also,
whom do you recommend? Whom do you recommend keratin fiber spray?
Some female patients of ours are regularly using these. Male patients are sparing using. They can't really continue using it. So, in my opinion, those patients who stick with me over 6-8 months, we are knowing that they are using their therapies regularly. Then we add these extra.
Yeah, those who are getting ready for the marriage proposals, pelli chupulu, or one patient whose marriage is within a few days, or who wants good photograph of his marriage album, because that is a very important thing which they in their life, having a good marriage album. And TV artists, cinema artists, and stage artists, we can prescribe. It's not harmful at all. There are some hair fiber thickeners as well as fixing sprays are there. People can use them. No harm. Absolutely, they don't have any side effect that I have also used for some of the patients, but very rarely we use them. Next is, do you use hair clips, hair pieces, and hair extensions, Dr. Malai, Dr. Mehta?
I do refer them if they are keen on using such things, and patients generally with high expectation which cannot be matched with hair transplantation, I refer them to XYZ Center.
Yeah, those who are, there are often women who want their volume or their fullness to be, hair to be full, so they have the brides. Actually, brides are there since many ages in India. You know that Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, you know about it. You know the amount of money which they get by actioning the hair? For 140 tons of hair, they get 11 crores income. In January, they got 11 crores income for selling 140 hair, 140 tons of hair. So that much of income they generate. These are mainly used for the hair pieces or hair braids or all those things. Should not forget there is a lot of income there in that. Can you throw any light on stem cell therapies for hair loss? Are there anybody who is using stem cell therapies? Not the apple stem cell therapy, not the peach stem cell therapy. No. I am not talking about those stem cell therapies which are available as mesotherapies in many products. No plant stem cell therapies. I'm talking about real stem cell therapies. Anybody can answer. Hello.
I don't think we have any practical use for stem cells at present, sir.
Yeah.
I think it's still in the
They
research.
say that a stem cell hair transplant was successfully performed by Italian researchers way back in 2017. It begins with a punch biopsy, then they take out the stem cell, separate the tissue, and then called by centrifuging, and then they leave a cell suspension that will be injected. That is what they say. And of late, the abdominal fat, or the hip fat, or liposuction procedures and low anesthesia they do. And then even from bone marrow also they can take up, and then they are not approved by the US FDA drug administration, but they are considered investigational. So there is another thing called as IDA, Investigational Drug Authority. So there it has been approved as a investigational therapy, but as such it is not, FDA has not approved it. And what about hair cloning? I think all the hair transplant surgeons should be waiting for this hair cloning. Have any idea about hair cloning? They take out a punch, they culture it. For the culture, we require keratinocytes as well as fibroblasts also, then only it will grow. And then once it is cultured, then it is injected. So something like that way back, I think in 2006 in Britain, they did it. There is one company called Intercitex, which has claimed some success with it. But definitely, I think probably in future, it may come into being. Hope it will come into being. So then last question, do you all agree that multi-pronged approach is the best to treat hair loss?
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody agrees. Because the main thing is the personal touch and the cumulative treatment strategies are very important, because the pathophysiology of the hair loss is complex and single management strategy may not be sufficient. That's why you need a comprehensive approach where you can use minoxidil, you can use finasteride, you can use minoxidil in these combinations, and miscellaneous products like topical peptides, growth factors, PRP, stem cell therapies, estrogen preparations, melatonin, nutraceuticals, and then scalp laser hair treatment. There is low laser light therapies, scalp micropigmentations, hair fiber powders, hair pieces, hair weaving techniques, hair transplantation, from micro to slit grafting to punch grafting to so many, and always keep an open mind for newer therapies. So this is the holistic approach we have to follow, or the comprehensive approach we have to follow. I think everybody agrees that the reason why so many preparations by so many companies have come into vogue, and we have to select some good preparations among them and then use them. And another thing is, everybody says anecdotal reports, our personal experience is also very important to consider, but only thing is do trials keeping in mind that only if you do a randomized control studies only, then that will be accepted as a proof. Otherwise, it won't be accepted. Single reports, like I have used clofazimine in alopecia areata patient. Suppose I take up only 4 or 5 cases, and then you can publish it, but it won't be authenticated. So that's why, please, youngsters, I think you all are hair transplant surgeons, and you are very good in hair management techniques. Please take up studies related to some control studies. Maybe suppose I want to do peptide studies, minoxidil with peptide or minoxidil with tetanines, like that. These studies you should take up and then tell to the youngsters that these are the studies I have done and these are beneficial. Then only I think we will be able to come to know what exactly is the right therapy for the hair loss management. And I